You know, the refs ran off as soon as they alerted that it was a touchdown and didn't even go for review, and that's something that I'm sure the league will come out with the new rule next year. Aren't all touchdowns reviewed, especially in overtime? That's on. I'm sure the league will say something about it, or maybe they won't.
Hear from Al Riveron, the NFL Senior VP of Officiating, who briefly, I'll underline the word briefly, reviewed the play from the league's command center in New York. He said there was contact by both players, but none of that contact rises to the level of a foul. This is consistent with what we've done all year long. We left the ruling on the field. We let it stand. Pat McAfee, why are you laughing?
Well, just nothing that Alberto Riveron has done all year has been consistent. So to say that this has been consistent with what we've done all year long is just a hypocritical statement by a guy who's in way over his head.
Dan Orlovsky, should that have been called offensive pass interference?
Absolutely. And it doesn't matter what we think. There's language written in for the officials to handle those situations. The language says if a player initiates contact to create separation, that is a flag. This is a contact initiated by Kyle Rudolph to create the separation to get that completed pass for the Vikings. Listen, this is a bang-bang play. I get all that. But this is not one of those what do you think plays. This is an obvious thing where that separation, this is hand fighting or whatnot. But once that arm gets locked out and that contact is initiated and then the chain of events is I have that separation, then that's PI. I don't know how you can ask defensive guys to play it any better. I love Kyle Rudolph. I love all that. That's PI.
The specific wording in the rule book, initiating contact with an opponent by shoving or pushing off, thus creating separation. But Rex, you were telling me you think the defender makes a mistake on the play as well.
He does make a mistake because right there, you got to, after the guy catches the football, you got to be going berserk. I mean, that's what you should have done
Selling
there.
it.
He's got to sell it like crazy. Why? I mean, it happened. Don't just like, oh, well, and then give it one of these. Oh, no, you've got to go absolutely berserk in this situation. That would have made our guy, Alberto Riveron, sit back and say, uh-oh, I better call something. There's no consistency with that guy, though.
Did you coach that? Did you coach your players
Absolutely.
to sell that call?
Dang right. If you're in that situation, hey, that's it. You've got to.
I think the biggest problem here is just 1 year ago, the rule was instituted in the Superdome due to a situation against the Saints, right? So you would think a year later in a playoff game, win or go home, that they would at least take a look at it. I think optically, for them not to pause the game just to get a second look at it, even if they don't overturn it, even if they say, hey, both of them are hand fighting, things like that, I think just the thought of them taking a little bit deeper of a look, a second look, is just much better than what they chose to do, which is run off the field immediately and say, oh, nope, nothing happened. Let's act like that rule we put in a year ago to help the game doesn't even exist. More Alberto Riveron gang ruining everything.
Let me get Bart in here. What do you think?
I can't believe I'm in opposite where I got the offensive guys saying that the defenders, need the easy button. I mean, listen, how about, making a play on the football? How about not sending a text message to Kirk Cousins that you're coming with a cover zero blitz by showing it early? How about recognizing that Rudolph's out there as the number one receiver, mismatched, and you know exactly where the ball is going? So it's about the little things. It's about making, Rex said it all the time, be a high percentage decision maker. He didn't do a good enough job in playing with his looks up and down press, coming back. He didn't look back for the football. I think that's what happened. If he would have turned and looked back for the football, he would have had to push him in his back, and it would have been more obvious that he was pushing him.
And you're right, Bart, but he's got to get up there and hit this guy at the line of scrimmage, challenge him, and then it would have been incidental, hey, it would have been contact by both players, but there wasn't. It was clear contact.
You can't make this call in this pivotal moment. Listen, the Saints are looking for somebody to get them off the hook. They made a lot of plays leading up to this final play that really that enabled them to be in that position.
Let's put the question this way. If offensive pass interference had been called on the play, if the official on the field had thrown the flag, is there anyone at this table who believes they would have overturned that in replay?
No chance.
No, the call would have stayed, for sure.
No shot, because that is like textbook what the language says. I mean, that's my issue. And
this is out to work. You can call holding every damn play too. But, I mean, technically you can always call it. But I mean, you
can't say like, hey, in that moment, don't. Those officials are taught the moment doesn't matter. You officiate the play no matter what happens.
Did Jordan push off Russell?
No, he broke him off.
No, I do think this. I don't think they have to overturn it after looking at it, right? Yeah. I just think the thought in the optics of looking at it, taking a deeper review of it, is just better for everybody. In the reason the rule was instituted. If they determine after that, because you can't have handsome Mike Pereira on television saying, well, that's obviously offensive pass interference, and then they don't even look at it. It just looks bad from all standpoints, and the rule was put in to save that.
Well, look, at the end of the day, maybe the only way to sum it up is to say death taxes and the Saints losing on the last play in heartbreaking fashion. We'll get to that in a minute, but let's give the man his due. Kirk Cousins has for a very long time, there's a sort of a way we talk about guys in golf, the best player never to win a major. Kirk Cousins was a good quarterback who'd never won a big game. They will never be able to say that about him again.
How's it feel to win a playoff game? Hey, that's how we've won all year, team, right? Hey, you held them to 20 points, man. You gave us a chance at the end, but I got 3 words for you. You like that?
Good for him. For a guy who has heard that all, you know, all the stuff that he's heard, that has to be a remarkable moment. Take us there.
If Kirk Cousins lost this game, everybody would be killing him. Everybody would be saying the same stuff. Kirk Cousins can't win the big football game. Kirk Cousins can't win a primetime game. Kirk Cousins can't win a game on the road in the playoffs. They'd be killing him. But now no one wants to give him his due. When he went down in New Orleans and outplayed Drew Brees, I mean, he played better than Drew Brees did over the course of that football game. And the second half throws. The ball to Thielen on 3rd and 9, off the motion, or 3rd and 6 on the motion. Dude, he takes a shot in the back right there. That ball is floating in the air because of it, but it's a beautiful ball. And then the throw to keep, that ball's out of his hands super early, and he's got to have some trust. That's a 3rd down throw in the second half. This is the best throw of Kirk Cousins' career and the biggest moment of his career. For him to take that shot down the field, no one in the league is throwing a better throw. That's as good as you can throw it, no matter what quarterback you are. Kirk Cousins started this year off 2-2, and a lot of people said a lot of things about Kirk Cousins, and they had the relationship issues with the receivers. And all he did was go on the road against Dallas and win a primetime game, and then have the massive fourth-quarter comeback against the Broncos, and then go on the road.
Did you just say Dallas? You just said Dallas?
Primetime Kirk was born there. Primetime Kirk was born in January.
And then go on the road and beat the Saints in the Superdome. No longer can you say whatever you want to say about Kirk Cousins.
But why do you have this incredibly skeptical look on your face?
Because this is a narrative for 1 week, because he goes and gets the doors beat off him in Green Bay. Then it's going to be over with.
At least
listen, I think really the fact that Dalvin Cook was able to come back from that shoulder injury and he was able to establish, the ground game really allowed a lot of those windows to be open. Are you asking yourself and saying today that Kirk Cousins is somebody that if it's all on his shoulders can propel a team to a win like we see with Russell Wilson? No, I don't think he's still that quarterback. I think he's a good, average to good quarterback, and I think he really silenced the critics for a week.
What does he need to do? What does he need to do to prove to you that he's an above-average quarterback, that he makes big plays and what does he need to do? Because
how about win a championship game? Here's the deal. When he was brought to Minnesota, don't forget Case Keenum was there, just a journeyman-type guy, and he was brought here to win a Super Bowl. That's what he's got to do to silence him for good. Right now, I agree with Bart on the weak deal. Look, I'm happy as heck for Kirk Cousins. The reason he gets criticized so much, why? Because we're all jealous of the contract he signed, right?
$84 million.
A guaranteed contract. Right. But he was brought here to put him over the hump. That's when he's going to silence everybody.
I think that's fair. I think the reality of it is he is paid like he's a superstar.
Sure.
And he was brought to a team that believed they were Kirk Cousins away from taking the next step, and generally they've moved backwards. Now, this could be a big step forward for him and for them. We'll see. What do you think?
I think it's massive for Kirk Cousins. I'm happy. And Dan said we don't want to give him his credit. It's 8 a.m. a day after the game happened. I mean, at least let us celebrate the guy just a little bit. But he made big-time plays in a big-time situation. 3 words, you like that. Then he said, yeah, that's 4 words. He'll work on celebrating later. But I think Kirk Cousins, this is a whole new world for Kirk Cousins, and it has to feel good if you're in the Minnesota Vikings organization.
Well, listen, just a couple of years ago, these two teams played an unforgettable playoff game in Minnesota, and it was the beginning of a stretch that fans, players, and the entire organization of New Orleans I'm sure just cannot believe what's happened to them. Let's look at the way their seasons have ended. They're now the first team in history to have 6 straight playoff eliminations by 1 score. The last 3 have all come on the final play. This one, as you well know, was 2 years ago this week, the Minneapolis Miracle. We all saw how it happened. Then last year, avert your eyes. I don't know how obvious you think the OPI was this year. This was maybe the worst call ever, and they wind up losing to the Rams last year at home in the NFC Championship game, and the rest is history. And now, of course, it goes full circle to this year in the OPI, and is it or isn't it? And then the other piece of this conversation that is brought up by this, so the devastation that is the way New Orleans season's ending. Again, 3 consecutive walk-off defeats to have your seasons end. When you're thinking Super Bowl thoughts all 3 years, I mean, the mental, just the resiliency to come back from all of that, I think is remarkable. But let's talk about the fact that that play happens, and in this case, Drew Brees never gets a chance to try and match it. Overtime in the National Football League, your thoughts?
I hate it. This is the second year in a row that we lose a star quarterback without getting a chance to get the football. We watched it, Mahomes. Listen, I get it, guys.
Oh, is this college?
No, it's not college, but I can still have my viewpoint on it. Like,
Let's hear it.
That'll make it right.
Because
Let's hear his
here's
viewpoint.
why. The team that loses the coin toss has to do 2 things. They have to get a stop, and then they have to go score. If you win the coin toss, you have one thing. All right, if you go score a touchdown, game is over. So why am I getting penalized? When I lose the coin toss, I have to go accomplish 2 things instead of only having to accomplish one. If you win, I get it. Win the game in regulation. I get it. When you make a stop, all that stuff. My opinion is we've got back-to-back years of not getting Patrick Mahomes with the opportunity with the football and not getting Drew Brees. And for a fan, that stinks.
Barton Scott has another skeptical look on his face.
I mean, blame it on the defense, right? Because I love it as a defender. All I know, if I kick the ball off, I get 3 and out. My offense gets on a short field. All I need is a field goal to win. I mean, I think the advantage goes to the person who gets the ball the second time if you get the field goal, because you know that you have to go for it on 4 downs.
Sure.
The person who gets the ball first doesn't have that luxury of going for it on 4 downs.
Correct.
They have to punt.
You like it or don't like it?
I like it. Look, I like the old rule, but I like this one now.
The old rule meaning even a field goal would end
Field goal
it.
would
Just sudden
end.
death,
Yeah,
that's it.
because I was old school, but I get it now. This has worked out great. How's it looked in all the other games? And you know how hard it is to go on a 75-yard drive to score a touchdown?
Right.
Like, it's almost impossible. And by then, it is sudden death from that point once you stop them. So if you're going to give up a touchdown, a 75-yard drive, and a
deserve to
touchdown,
lose.
forget it.
Well, we will
deserve
point
to
out,
lose.
again, if you look at 2 of the last 3 playoff overtime games, we had Buffalo-Houston go to overtime the other day, and that went on a while. But the points you were making, Drew Brees never got to touch the ball in overtime yesterday. Patrick Mahomes never got to touch the ball in overtime last year. Pat McAfee, your thoughts?
Oh, I
Here
can
it
fix
comes.
overtime.
Fix it.
And my big brain has done it. And you have Ask Acho and Dominique Foxworth and Swagoo says and Orlovsky has a touchscreen. I have a full screen. Me and Hembo made it. Please put it up. Here is how you fix overtime. You play 1 extra 10-minute quarter, classic football, Bart Scott. Okay, both teams get the ball. You punt if you have to. Blocking, tackling, throwing, running, you get it. Classic football. If tied at end of said quarter, that quarter I just explained, 2-point conversion, sudden death shootout style. One offense is on one side, the offense is on the other side. They go back and forth 3 times. If one team scores, the other team doesn't, it's over. Score, you move on. If it's tied after 3 of those, then you know what you do. You go to a kicker duel. Just like Alexander Hamilton
That's
did
what
back
football
in the
needs,
day.
more kickers.
You bring out the 2 kickers in their holders. They go from 50 yards. If they both make it, you go back to 55. If they both make it, you go back to 60. Then, if it's tied after that, you get a non-kicking player to come out and have to kick an extra point, and so forth and so forth. Not only is it entertaining, not only are the best athletes, kickers and punters still involved, but it is something that fans can't wait to watch, and that's what I'm here for. You're welcome, Roger Goodell. I answered this Patrick Mahomes, Drew Brees problem you have for overtime. I can't help it anymore. I'm just trying to make this the best possible
Best
product.
athletes. Can you even touch the toes?
No.
Could be the dumbest idea I've ever heard.
Who wants to address that? In fact, let's not even address that. Here, let's do this. Here's what I like about it.
It's a real answer.
I like playing an actual period of actual football. What
Bingo.
I hate about college overtime is that it is contrived nonsense. It looks nothing like most of football. The problem with playing an entire period, you can't do it in the regular season. You could consider this plan, take the 2-point piece out of it, but you could consider playing an entire period in the postseason, but you can't do it in the regular year because there'd be injury concerns and all the rest of that. Yes?
Right.
But I like the idea of playing actual football to decide a football game.
Yeah, but I don't like this. You're going to have a whole quarter you're going to play.
You don't
and
want
for
a
these
quarter.
guys right here. No, I mean, these are the guys that are going to get hit.
Yes,
You
some
know,
punters, linebackers.
Listen, some teams are built defensively, some teams are built offensively. I think it's a disservice to the teams that are built on the defensive side of the ball to make it all about, everybody gets a shot and making them play a full quarter. If you go down and you score, you deserve to win the football game because it's easier.
Just like I heard in Bobby Carpenter's woodshed or whatever, like I think just like in beer pong, if they score, you should get a rebuttal. Like I honestly believe if a touchdown is scored, you should. Drew Brees should get the ball
back. Going 80 yards is hard to do.
But you just said teams are built differently. So if you're an offensively built football team that your defense is secondary and you lose the coin toss and your defense has to go on the field, then the weakest part of your football team,
like Kansas City last year. Okay. Let's move on for this because we're not solving this problem. Let's talk about the Saints. Let's talk.
Just keep it the same.
Assuming that we don't believe that Pat McAfee's solution is the solution. As far as the New Orleans Saints are concerned, a lot of people spent a lot of time over the course of this season on this program saying they're the best team in the National Football League, and here they are done. Have we seen the end of this era of Saints football? Again, 3 heartbreaking season-ending losses in a row. Brees is 40 years old. Was that it? Was this their last best shot?
No, I don't think it's their best. I don't think it's the end for New Orleans. I still think that Drew Brees goes back there. Sean Payton brings him back. This is still a really good, young, nucleus, talented football team. They just mismanaged the clock late, and that hurt them. And their stars hurt them with their lack of performance in big moments.
Do you agree or disagree?
Well, I'm going to say this, Greeny. First off, I never once said they were the best team.
Fair.
Attaboy, Rex.
And I'll stand by what I said. I said San Francisco. But everybody else, you're right. Everybody else said they were.
Whoa.
Look, we're going to find out. How much better can they get? I don't know, but because your quarterback's getting older.
Yeah.
That defense has always been a problem. It hadn't been where it needs to be. So we'll see.
Well, why is that? Because there's too much cheese on Drew Brees' taco, right? He's taking too much of the pie. That's why they went all in, giving up the draft equity. Going out and getting Davenport. They've been all in for the last couple of years. I think it's time to move on because you look at Teddy Bridgewater, maybe going somewhere else. Who's the future of this organization? Who's the future quarterback?
Is it Taysom Hill? I mean, I don't even know. That doesn't seem realistic. I get it. Everyone keeps saying it.